Our guest today is widely recognized as a skillful and highly accomplished law enforcement professional who brings a distinguished background to his job as Cook County Sheriff. He is a former prosecutor, state legislator, and served as Chief of Staff to Sheriff Mike Sheehan. He holds a law degree from Loyola and a bachelor's degree in history and general social studies from Providence College. Our guest today and his wife Patricia live in Chicago and are the proud parents of 4 young children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago, Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. Tom? Thank you. Have some fun up here.
Oh, I will. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Between Jay's introductions, and I believe we've got everyone in the room introduced now, between that, Paul's birthday, and Alexi, I've been asked to just, in closing, time's up, huh? Yeah. On a serious note, there's few people in this life that inspire me more than Sister Rosemary. Between my parents and Sister Rosemary, they give me so much inspiration day in, day out with the things they do. And Sister, you are truly an angel. The things you do, I cannot tell you. It's amazing. Thank you. Once again, thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be back here. I struggled over what to talk about today because, frankly, my job is so boring. There's just nothing new that ever goes on at our place. Just pushing paper. I figured I could talk about the jail, but I did that last time, and I was roundly criticized because I failed to really strike at what the mission of our office is. So I need to know who it is that needs the badges and guns I was supposed to give out last time. Seriously, I wasn't clear on what exactly would be of interest to you, so it's more of an overview of a lot of the things we've done, somewhat of a what I did on my summer vacation type of thing, but at the jail. If you were to read some of the papers and even some crazy TV reports, including last night's, it's easy to get the wrong impression about the job that we've done over the last 20 months. Federal inspectors say that I'm not running the jail properly. Some bankers and mortgage companies say I'm a vigilante who's not upholding the law. There's a new sheriff in town, all right. You just didn't realize that you got yourself one that apparently isn't big into following the law and actually likes to break it. We never actually did realize we were going to get as much attention for agreeing to not work as we did. It was a fascinating concept, but we did. In all reality, though, we have done incredible things in our office in the last 20 months. And it's funny, when I talk about 20 months, I feel truly as if it's been 20 years. It is every day a new adventure. We're trying to do so many different things, and we feel like we've accomplished a lot. And it's through the efforts of the people that are working with me at the office. Honest to God, we have the best people over there. They do such a tremendous job, day in, day out, dealing with some of the difficulties that you can never imagine, and we get it done. And no slight to the media, those are the things that traditionally don't get covered, and there's many reasons why, but they have really made all this happen. I've helped somewhat, but they're the ones that really get things done day in, day out, and I can never thank them enough. We're moving ahead on a lot of different areas. We're building on a lot of our accomplishments, and we're going to take things to even a higher level. And along the way, I'm promising I'm going to actually start following the law, too. The office itself, it touches so many people's lives, and I want to just talk about just a couple of them here. There's this thing we did this past year, got a little bit of attention, not a lot, and it's called a bright space room that we unveiled. They say traditionally people think of, and I know Steve over here is going to shoot me because I have a tendency not to follow scripts, so he's in charge of the slides and I'm not doing it. The people traditionally think of, sheriff's office in a more traditional way. They think of like Andy Taylor and, Barney, and in our case, a lot of people reference Otis Campbell or Ernest T. Bass, and not as employees either, mind you. The traditional guy in the cowboy hat, the 6-shooter, it's easy to lose sight of all the other things we do. And this bright space concept is something we're particularly proud of that is really not in the traditional mold. We have a large population of women in our jail. The numbers had been increasing a great deal. They thankfully have plateaued as of late. But the average woman that we have in our jail has 4 children each. And so people cycle in and out of our jail rather quickly. And what became apparent to us is that, what common sense dictates, that these people are going back into the communities, back to their families. And so we felt compelled to try to do something to try to integrate people better into their communities and with their families. We operated with a New Horizons group, just phenomenal group. They came forward with the money, and we converted this room that was frankly vacant in the jail into what is best to be described as like a daycare center, where we allow highly screened and highly motivated women to get back in contact with their children. And we do that while they're with us in the jail in anticipation of them getting out. And I can tell you that in all the time I've been there so far, this was really one of the more moving things that I saw when the women, first and foremost, when they just saw the room. I mean, it was a beautiful room, like a daycare center. A lot of them got emotional. And then when all of a sudden their kids came running from around the corner and they were able to hold them and hug them, I mean, all of them lost it in the room. And so it's something that I think that we're the only ones in the country that do it. And it's things like that that we've been building on in an effort to try to make transitioning back into the community better. Things, frankly, that I think are all common sense. Nothing that involved any high-level, rocket science type math, but just common sense here. And so we're really proud of that. We're proud of our Women's Justice Service and all the things they do. They work with the Haymarket Center extensively in trying to put people back together, work with them in a holistic type of way. It is really neat, and I suggest to anybody, if you ever want to come out and see it, it's really neat to see it in action. And it has changed a lot. In a lot of lives, you can tell it has changed. And in the area of women, our Women's Justice Service, we sponsored a new ordinance in front of the county board that I believe is going to be acted on in the next couple of weeks. And it's also something we're very excited about because this hits in the area of prostitution. And it's an area we focused a lot of attention on. Presently, right now, Johns are required to pay a $500 fine, towing and storage fees, and they're charged under a statute. With this new ordinance, it's going to emphasize charging the solicitation and the pimping part of it. And those charges are going to go to a hearing officer, which is going to clear up the court calendars, and they're still going to be paying a $500 fine. The money is going to be something is going to be directed toward these type of services. Last year, 340 prostitution-related arrests we had. Only 67 were the Johns. And we're going to increase all of that under this new ordinance. We're going to be able to create a lot more revenue as a result of it. We're going to be able to do more ourselves. We're going to do reverse stings, posing as prostitutes. I'm not going to be one of them, so you don't have to worry about that. And in order to make more of these arrests. And the money, once again, is going to be generated is going to go into this women's justice program. Prostitution is not a victimless crime. There's a lot of people that think of it in terms of that. And frankly, there are people who are horribly crushed that think that way. If you ever could analyze these women and where they come from in their histories, honest to God, it is just heartbreaking stuff. Virtually all of them have a history of sexual abuse from when they were kids. They've had a history of domestic violence as they've grown up, and most all of them have drug abuse issues as well. Their lives are just horrific. And so what we've done is by trying to get more of the revenue directed toward us, we are having our women's justice program actually go out to the police station. So when we make the arrest and we arrest the prostitutes themselves, we have people, former prostitutes, some of which who now work for us, who work with them and try to mentor them and try to explain to them how they can change their lives and how they can turn things around. So this isn't just this vicious cycle going over and over again where we arrest them, they post a $100 bond, they go back on the street, and 2 hours later we're arresting them again. So we're trying to use our brains a little bit in trying to break the cycle here. The funds are going to be very important for projects like that, but I can't emphasize enough to you that prostitution has gotten so sophisticated now. They're all over certain areas of the internet. Specifically, Craigslist is an area where prostitution is just flourished. You go on certain sites, and that's all it is prostitution. And you can go to other sites. There's actually special sites for prostitutes where they can go on to it to find out where they can make the most money that weekend in what area of the country. And a lot of the prostitutes we've arrested actually have one-way tickets that they got, and they explained to us they're coming into town for this short period of time, they're going to make their money, then they're going to leave. This has been stunning to us because it is also brought in a whole different type of prostitute than you would normally think. We've had, the ones I guess you would say are typical in some respects, but we've also had, we arrested a former reality TV star a couple months ago who was actually in one of the buildings not too far around here. She was operating off of Craigslist. We had numerous cases of soccer moms, for lack of a better word, who seemingly had a normal life, who dropped the kids off at school, put ads out on Craigslist, go meet a John, commit sex acts, and then go back and pick the kids up. We've had cases that, as I say, boggle the mind where we'll make the arrest up in the hotel room and the husband's down in the parking lot waiting for his wife while she's up there. We had one just a few months ago. As I say, they're all disturbing, so it's hard for me to say this one's particularly disturbing or that one is. They all are. Where we had a woman who had just given birth 24 hours prior. Her child was in the intensive care unit at Northwestern, and we arrested her that night. It's really gotten out of control. And we've attempted, God knows we've attempted, to try to work with the Craigslist people to try to deal with this issue, and we've sent them letter after letter after letter asking them, please take the site down, try to work with us, and of course they have done absolutely nothing as a result of that. We're hoping that maybe they'll come around to it, but I'm not expecting it because somehow this works for them. I can't understand how it works for them, but it does. Our sex unit, though, in the sexual crimes are not just the prostitution part of it. We have also a sexual exploitation unit that unfortunately deals with sex acts when children are involved with it. And we have more of that than you can possibly imagine. Tomorrow, I'm going out with our folks to do something we've been doing for a while now, where we go out to the doors of sex offenders, not trick-or-treating, but we go out there and we knock on the door, we put a sticker type thing on their door, and we explain to them what the laws are and that they better not be answering their door. And we sort of circle around and make sure they're not anywhere near children. It's very effective. And it's particularly something that's near and dear to me. When I was a state's attorney, I remember I worked extensively with a lot of doctors who worked with these animals. And these people can't be cured. All we can do is keep them away from kids. And so we're just trying to, over and over again, just let them know that we're watching. And it's the best we can do right now. Just this past year, we arrested a 31-year-old South Elgin man who lured a 12-year-old to his apartment and had sex with him using the MySpace website. After that, the kid wanted to try to get away from all this. The kid even went to the point of setting up a new MySpace account. This guy found his new MySpace account, and it was only at that point that the kid came forward to his parents and explained what had happened, and we were able to arrest this person. In June, we arrested 76 people involved in sex trade that were advertising on Craigslist. We've been monitoring the Craigslist site since I got in the office, trying to go after them in general for prostitution, but specifically as it goes for kids. As I mentioned before, we've attempted to have these people become responsible and reasonable. They have no desire to do that, none. It's just appalling. We talk about corporate responsibility. There's absolutely none here, absolutely none. I was hoping to sort of, out of embarrassment, they'd stop, but they apparently can't be embarrassed. They gave us some meek response at one point that they were going to do something about it, that it was under control. And so I decided to test it a little bit. And so we posted an ad that we were acting. We posted an ad saying we were a 14-year-old seeking sex, and the ad was never taken down. And we kept getting people trying to get us to follow through on the ad. We also had a case, it was called Quiet Money, that we did. We stumbled across through the Craigslist, once again, juvenile pimping operation. And it was particularly sorted on a lot of different levels. We eventually got, the state's attorney's office was fantastic. We got involuntary servitude charges against these people, which is very rarely ever done. We arrested 4 pimps and 6 girls, and then we swept in a bunch of juveniles at the same time. And for those of you out there to think, this is happening in certain areas of the town, and it's, all these troubled areas, whatever, it's not the case. 2 of the girls that we brought in, we didn't end up arresting them, were 15-year-old girls. They're sophomores in high school. And one of them did it because she wanted to earn a little bit of extra money, didn't realize what she'd got herself into. And one of these pimps, what he was doing is he would go to the door and he'd stand at the door to make sure she didn't run out. And the other one, it was a very similar story. From incredibly, I'd say, upper middle class neighborhoods. So it's a very difficult area, it's very dangerous, and it's everywhere. And so people really do need to be on top of this. We've also been very active in the last few months in the area of going back on some cold cases that have been out there. 2 in particular we were very excited about that we were able to bring to conclusion, involved children at the time. One was a case where the victim was Dawn Niles. We announced that in April that we'd solved this. This was a 1981 murder of a 15-year-old girl who was deaf and pregnant at the time that she was murdered. Some fishermen found her body in the Palos Forest Preserve, and she'd been stabbed 30 times. Not long before she'd been killed, she'd explained to her boyfriend that she was pregnant and that he was the father. The case never came together back in 1981. Through some new technology, we were able to do a little bit more, worked with some other witnesses that had not been fully explored, and we were able to charge this guy with murder just this past April. Mike Sheehan, my predecessor, had been really involved with this case and did a tremendous job in making sure this one got pushed. The other one was just in the news yesterday that we announced. This one, once again, in this world, it's so hard to say particularly disturbing, more disturbing. They're all horribly disturbing. This one was so difficult on so many levels, not the least of which because I have my own young children now, and you always sort of think of your kids at times. But here was an 11-year-old boy that I don't know where to begin to describe him. He was, by everyone's account, amazing child, never got in trouble. He was a student, just became a Boy Scout. He'd just gone up from being a Cub Scout, active in sports in the area, just everything you want of your son. And he lived with his 9-year-old brother. His mom was 7 months pregnant with another child, and she made the mistake, I guess, of sending him out for milk on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning to go to a store 2 blocks from their house at 10 in the morning on a Sunday. This person, Ron Rice, was out looking, and he was out looking for kids. And he nudged him with his car, didn't hurt him, knocked him off his bike, walked up to him, convinced him, get in the car with him, set the bike along the road, and off they went. The mom, within 20 minutes, was out looking for her son, who went 2 blocks away to get a gallon of milk, found his bike sitting by the side of the road about 3/4 of the way down the block. A search ensued immediately, and 4 days later, his body was found in the forest preserve. The case is, from many levels, very, very troubling. Forget the facts for a second. You had an eyewitness watching this boy go into a car. For reasons I cannot understand, we're looking into right now, the defendant was allowed to plead guilty to leaving the scene of a accident and obstructing justice, because he came forward and decided to tell a story about how he nudged the child was dead at the side of the road or very sick. He put him in the car to take him to the hospital, and he died along the way, and he panicked and dropped the body in the woods. Why that story was believed, I will never understand. But so he was allowed to plead guilty on those 2 minor offenses, got 2 years probation at the time. And he 2 years later, he was arrested for kidnapping and deviant sexual assault of another child and received 60 years in IDOC, where he's at right now. He was expecting to get out in a few years until we sort of dropped the bomb on him the other day. It was particularly enjoyable because he had no idea why we were there. He thought he had beat this one. So he was a little bit upset about the whole thing, to put it lightly. But it was one of those situations where we were able to put together a lot of different pieces of things that had, some of it, frankly, was out there already, and bring this one conclusion. I spoke with his mom. His mother, amazing woman. You know, the media, as they say, there's great people in the media, and then there's people that, you know, what can I tell you? They were upset she wouldn't talk to them. I tried to explain to them yesterday. For 28 years, this woman has operated on the assumption her child was killed rather quickly, rather, I guess, innocently, if you want to call it that way. And all of a sudden, 28 years later, she finds out that he was grabbed, terrorized, sexually assaulted, and then violently murdered. So she has been just an amazing person. We were very excited to bring that one to conclusion. Our cold case unit has been very aggressive. We've got loads of other ones we're going through right now, and we're expecting a lot more activity in that area. We're also doing things in regards to our cold case. We're working with Comcast right now. I have a partnership with them where we're laying out a lot of our cold cases and our most wanted people, and people can go to the on-demand part and click on things to see some of the cold cases and some of the cases we have out there to see if they have information. And it's just like in America's Most Wanted, and we're expecting to get a lot of results as a result of that. We also did an operation by our fugitive unit, which is involved with the Most Wanted, but we also did a thing called, it was Operation Rebate and Switch. This one was absolutely hilarious. This one was so funny. We set up an office on Archer Avenue. We got someone to donate the space to us, and we put signs on the window that we were tax consultants. And we then did a big mailing to all these different folks who had warrants out for their arrest, saying that somehow our federal government had overlooked paying you your tax rebate, and we were there to help. And so we ended up arresting 66 people, and one story was funnier than the other. I mean, these people are driving in from all around the country to collect their money, and then they're showing up, and our tax consultant would talk to them, and then we'd tell them we have to go to the back now to get the form, and we'd have 5 guys waiting back there to arrest them, and if you could, the looks on their faces were absolutely hilarious. And some of the stuff they said was so funny. One of these morons, right after we had arrested him, he still wasn't completely getting the whole concept, and he was insisting that he was going to use the rebate check to bond himself out of jail. And we kept trying to explain to him. I go, no, this was not real. And he said, okay, but can I use it still? And I was like, absolutely, knock yourself out, go bail. And it was funny. I was wandering around one of our divisions a couple weeks later, and a bunch of the inmates grabbed me, and they were hilarious. They kept yelling, hey, where's my rebate check? Where's my rebate check, Sheriff? And I said, it's coming, it's coming. And they told me, said, you know what, a couple of them, I got busted that way sometimes too. He goes, that was the best one I've ever heard. And I was like, more to follow. And we do have a couple other ones that are coming up that are pretty funny too, but I obviously can't tell you, otherwise it won't be a surprise we're looking for. Another responsibility we picked up, and something truly we weren't looking for, was the town of Fort Heights. It's the poorest, second poorest, third poorest town in the United States. Take your pick. It's sort of, you're splitting hairs here. We had been providing 2 shifts of police officers to there forever. And then one day the other shift, which was the Fort Heights shift, didn't show up for work for about a week. So they didn't have any police, and it was obviously posing a problem. And so then we were sort of brought in, once again, not because we wanted to, but this town had no police department. A lot of it driven by the fact it's so poor they have no money. They're paying their police officers minimum wage, and they would come in and get a little bit of training, say they're a Fort Heights cop, and then they would go off and do security work for real money. So they didn't have anybody there. We came in. We welcomed ourselves to town by doing a big warrant sweep the first day, and we arrested 35 people in just the one day, all who had active warrants out for them. We brought in our SWAT team, which does the cleanup, and went through the town and dramatically cleaned that up. And since we've been in there, we've seen just a precipitous drop in all the crime numbers there. The town has calmed down like you would not believe. The townspeople just come to us left and right, thanking us for being there. They don't want us to ever leave, and they keep telling us it's the first time they've ever been able to walk their streets, go to church, go to school. So, that's very rewarding. The unfortunate part of it is we're not getting paid for it. We were already stretched very, very thin as it was, and now we're basically the police department for this entire town, which we didn't have the resources for. So we're spread very, very thin. And one of the other areas we've been real aggressive in is in the area of animal crimes. Very busy in the suburbs, but we've also been working in the city as well. We've been handling a lot of different cases there. I have some great lunchtime photos here for you. I was so excited to hear we weren't serving like hamburgers or stuff like that, because it would be particularly difficult for you to stomach this stuff. We work a lot with the animal rights groups that come up with a lot of great information for us. We work a lot of different sources. One of the ones that we got a great deal of attention for was the Bar L Ranch. This was out in Bloom Township. We went out there. This was absolutely disgusting. I mean, literally, there were horses that were in 3 feet of horse manure, to the point where they couldn't get out of their stall because their legs were so far embedded into the manure they couldn't get them out. So we had to go in and dig all of it out to try to lift them out of the stalls, because they had not been let out of their stalls for months. And when we got out, it was clear that they hadn't been tended to. Either their hoofs had changed, because you're supposed to cut the hoofs of the horses at different times and trim them like nails. They hadn't been done, so their hoofs had actually curved up as if they were almost like shoes. I think, I'm trying to remember, it was either 4 or 5 horses we took there. 2 of them had to be euthanized. It was so bad. The other ones have new homes and are having a lot better life than they were. Two men were criminally charged as a result of that. So we felt pretty good about that. We've also been working a lot in the area of the pit bulls and the puppy mills and the rest of them. We did a bust a few months back. I want to say 9-10 months ago. It was the largest in the history of Illinois. We had 37 dogs we took, and I couldn't begin to explain to you how horrific this was. I was out there. 2 things that jump out. One, this wasn't out on a farm. This was in the middle of a residential area. So how it was that this didn't come to our attention a lot sooner is beyond me. It was in sort of like a big garage where they kept most of these dogs. The smell was unbelievable. I mean, it was so hard to even move around in there because it smelled so horrible. The animals were stacked up about 5 or 6 cages high, and the opening in the cage was actually faced against the wall. So the animals had no sunlight, very little air. There was 2 or 3 of them jammed in each cage, all stacked right on top of each other. It was really nasty stuff. There was treadmills all over the places. There was steroids we got that they were shooting up the dogs with. It was bad stuff. We was able to save most of the dogs. A couple of them had to be put down because they were being used as bait dogs to teach the other ones how to kill, so they were pretty bad off, and we weren't able to save some of them. So we've been aggressive in this area. We continue to do it. We keep making more and more arrests there. We're expecting a lot more to come, because it's just, unfortunately, it's a trend. A lot of the gangs are very involved with it now. It's somewhat of a status symbol for them to have the best fighting dog, so we see a lot of that, both, as I said, in the suburbs and in the city. We've been very, very active. Our greatest area that we get most of our attention for, very rarely positive, mind you, is the jail, my favorite place. It's also where we put most of our resources. Most of our budget is there. We've made remarkable changes. A lot of it is, once again, because of the people over there they work around the clock, and they really care. They care that we run a place where the detainees, when they're there, they're safe. They're not going to be hurt or harmed. Our employees are safe. At the same time, we're trying to come up with innovative programs to try to make the inmates less likely to come back, and we've been somewhat successful in that. We hired just recently, we hired our own medical advocate, which is something the sheriff's office never did, and quite frankly, we shouldn't have to do. But I'm not here to throw stones by any stretch. The county's had budget issues that we all know about. The department that deals with the public health had tremendous cuts put upon them. And as a result of that, some of the services previously that had gone on at Cermak Hospital, they weren't there. So when we got our criticism a few months ago about the running of the jail, it was particularly difficult to me when I was getting hit about the medical conditions. I have nothing to do with the medical conditions there. It's run by the county board. They run all the health issues around the jail. As opposed to just continuing to whine, we hired our own medical advocate, and she's been doing a remarkable job working with their medical staff to try to come up with new solutions to how we can address some of the problems that we've had at the jail, and it's been really, really helpful. We've also, through our accountability means, the number of shanks we have have decreased by about 50%. A lot of you will recall last year we brought some of the shanks out here to show people. I'm still looking for a couple of them back, Jay, by the way. We've purchased an early warning system to alert us if we have employees that have a history of abusing inmates or other issues that we need to know about, to alert us ahead of time so we can get on that before it becomes a problem. We've increased our hiring standards for new correctional officers now, where it's to the point now where we're having a hard time getting people who are qualified. We usually would have a class of 60 cadets. This past one was 23 because our standards have been raised so high that we just can't get that caliber, which I'm fine with. I'd rather have good people than just quantity there, because the other way gets us in a lot of problems. We're also working with the community a lot. We've had more ministers and more community activists involved in the jail than there's ever been involved before, trying to work with us to link detainees that leave the jail with the community, because it's one of those fallacies. People think that everybody goes to the jail, they then go down to the prison system. 80-some% of the people in the jail go right back into the community. It's a very small percentage that actually go down to the prison system. So we've been working on that. We've been working on some vocational training programs, which is a very difficult concept for a jail, because once again, people come and go. We don't know when their trial's coming, when they're going to be released, so it's hard to get them in a 4-week program when they're only with us for a week. We did something unique over at our boot camp where we're working with some carpenters who volunteered to help us, where we're building sheds that we have donated to different organizations. And I don't know if we donate one to Misericordia or not. We may have, I'm not sure. We're building these sheds that are really nice, and it's teaching these guys these skills that will give them a leg up on possibly becoming carpenters when they get out. And it's been going well. We're trying to expand on our vocational area so that our detainees are good at a vocation other than making knives, which they've gotten very good at. We also have a garden program that we give out master gardener certificates to people who get very involved with that. I can't remember how many tons of produce we had this past year, but that went out to food shelters around the county, and it gave our people something very productive to do with themselves. There's a picture of me figuring out what that stuff was I was wandering through, not clueless like usual. But when you talk about some of the innovative things we do, one of the things that's been getting most of the attention lately has been what we've done in the area of foreclosures. It's something that's angered a lot of people and has made quite a bit of news. We did not stop all of the evictions. What we did is we stopped the ones that were wrong, and they were wrong. The other ones, the more traditional ones where you have a landlord-tenant relationship, we continue to do those. We do about 10,000 of those a year, and these are ones where, as I say, this is not something that is easy to say good guys and bad guys here. When I go out and our units go out to a lot of these apartments, you wouldn't believe some of these horrific things some of these people have done to some of these apartments. People have put a lot of their own money into some of these apartments to fix them up, and have just been literally destroyed by people who have not even paid them rent, too. I mean, they rip walls out, they rip the pipes out, they write nasty things on the walls, usually directed at us. And it's just, very difficult. We evicted someone from a house last week, and I was out there, and difficult situation, but nonetheless, they were keeping pit bulls in one of the bedrooms. The room was completely destroyed. The pit bulls had eaten through the walls, and the poor woman I was talking to, she was like, "Sheriff, my husband and I put thousands of dollars into this place to fix it up. Look what they've done to it." So, as I say, you have both ends of the spectrum. We've continued to go ahead with these type of evictions, which I would love to tell you this is unusual. We get these every week. We started taking pictures of them, not frankly to try to make your lunch unsettled, but it was done more because at different times people were complaining about some of our people stealing stuff from these places. So, yeah, it's a real interesting argument. People would come later on and say, "Listen, look what you did to our place." It was like, no, this is what it was like when we walked into it. And so we now take photographs of everything to try to make sure that we don't get sued for those. But the real problem, frankly, was in the foreclosure areas. These were evictions from rental apartments. The foreclosure cases were the ones that got the attention, and I'll be honest with you, this was an absolute no-brainer. This wasn't something where it took me a lot of hours to figure out what we were doing was just wrong. We were going up to house after house after house where the people at the house had no idea anything was going on, had never been informed of anything other than us showing up at their door in our black suits saying, get out, or us showing up and they're out at work and we're putting all their stuff out on the street. And so this is something where we saw the trends going on. We saw things not being done the right way. I mean, just the numbers are staggering. They've been climbing since 1999. Just in the last 2 years, the number of foreclosures has tripled. In 99, we had 12,900 filings. Last year, there were 32,000. This year, we expect 43,000 to be filed. And I always mention to people, because the process takes 18 months, when I talk about 43,000 this year, that's what our economy, a snapshot of our economy 18 months ago. So you can imagine it's going to get a lot worse. The evictions from foreclosures have tripled. All the numbers are tripling in that area. And this was not a new topic for us either. This wasn't something where we just got involved with this. Since the first day I got in office, I've been very involved with the eviction issue because, I'll be honest with you, it's horribly troubling. It's one of the more traumatic things we do day in, day out. And I can't say, when you go out there and you see this stuff, it's really upsetting. It's so easy if it was all a bunch of frat boys, a bunch of Cub fans or something, and that'd be easy. That would be easy, but the reality of it is that is not the population that we're evicting. And for me, especially having young children, we'd go there to evict somebody. You'd go into a house that's sparsely, very little furniture, very little of anything. You go into the kids' rooms, they have very little of anything at all. And we are removing them from the house, removing their property of the house. And in a lot of these areas, when the property goes out to the street, and a parent or whoever's in the house goes to look for a truck or something, everything gets stolen that's out on the street. I mean, we can't stand there and guard it. We're off to our next eviction. We've got 10,000 to do. We got to go. We're on to the next eviction. And it was particularly difficult for me, as I said, when I looked at these kids who have done nothing wrong. I mean, very, very young children who are being escorted out of the place they sleep in, that they have lived in. The few things they own in life are being tossed in the street, and off they go. And we were supposed to sit there and just act like, oh, it's not a big deal. That's just our job. We just got to do this stuff. It's not our job. Since the day I walked in there, I've been trying to take evictions from the Stone Age into the technology age. I've tried to work with different groups in Springfield who have been particularly disappointing to me, to put it lightly. And I'm not going to mention the specific groups, but just really complete morons, dunderheads. All I ask them to do is when they give me eviction-related requests, give me what information you have about the people in your place. What you have in your place. Give me their ages. Give me dates of birth. Right now, when our people show up at the door, we have no idea who's in there. I've reached out to people like the Department of Aging with Joyce Gallagher, who is absolutely phenomenal. They are dying to help us. I mean, if we had this information, it takes us 2 to 6 weeks from the time we get an order for an eviction until we can carry it out because of the number of evictions we have. In that 2 to 6 weeks, give us the opportunity to reach out to social service to see if there's some way we can mitigate this so that they can talk with these people and say, listen, we'll help move you out. We can find you some other place to go to. Instead of us just dumping people out like garbage out into the street. You should not be doing that. And with the seniors, oh my God, you want to talk about difficult. I can't tell you how many seniors I've seen put out myself where clearly there's issues of dementia going on here. And we're taking this person and setting them out by the curb with their stuff. If I had that information ahead of time, the Department of Aging would have been there 2 weeks before and helped them into a different situation. So we're going to go down to Springfield again. We're not giving up on this thing because, and I will get a lot nastier. So if people think I was nasty before, this is going to get ugly. And so I suggest to people who might think that they can just continue to kill my bills in Springfield on this, that you really haven't seen anything yet. This is going to get really particularly ugly because I'm not going to continue to go along with something that is just absolutely wrong. I mean, in this age, to not be able to get that information and pass it on to people who might be able to help some of these people. And as I say, this isn't some delusional, raging lunatic up here. I clearly show you there's plenty of cases where people need to be put out, and we will do that. But in these other ones, we need to be able to do it with some degree of accuracy and some degree of humanity here. And it's not asking too much. And as I say, we were seeing this over and over again, specifically in the foreclosure areas, where the bank had no idea who was in their house. Absolutely no idea. They sent us out to one location to evict somebody where the house had been gone for 4 years. We went out there and it was an empty lot, overgrown by weeds. It's gone. And we had an order to evict those people. I was like, well, this is fascinating. You know, so we were seeing more and more cases like that where we were being sent out blindly to places to toss people in the street, and no one had any idea who was there anymore. So that's what, you know, was at the heart of what we were up to. This past week I was out again on these evictions. Get a load of this. I went out in one house in Inglewood, and it was one of only 3 houses left on the block. The rest of them had all been knocked down. Go in there, there's probably about 5 or 6 people living in the house. There is a couple with 9-month-old twins there, and they're showing me their lease. First they've heard about the eviction, showing me their lease. We have the foreclosure document showing that the house was foreclosed on day X. Months after the foreclosure went through, this guy entered into a lease with these people on a foreclosed piece of property. And now all of a sudden we're at the door tossing this guy, his 4 kids, 2 9-month-old, out in the street. And then I go and talk to a couple that we're supposed to throw out who've lived in the same place for 5 years, paid everything, had been paying their rent, paying everything on time. The landlord came 2 months ago and said, hey, listen, the bank may send you something, but it's all under control. I've worked it out. Just keep paying me the rent. Went out to another 6 flat. These people paid everything. The guy took off. He's been collecting all of their rent. They were continuing to pay. Gorgeous, gorgeous apartment. They've kept up everything, and we're supposed to throw them out. So we sat down. Judge Kennard did a fantastic job working with us. We've put together some new rules and how we're going to go ahead with stuff, requiring the banks to do what, frankly, they should have been doing from the get-go, which is like due diligence, figure out who's in your house, is there a house, make sure they're notified. Without those things, we don't move ahead with it. And just this past week, as I said, we were out there. I called off virtually every one of them because we were still walking up to the same mess, which we somewhat expected because we didn't feel that these rules were going to kick in yet. But they're going to kick in. But if they aren't working, if they think they're smarter than me, and they probably are, I'll just stop it again, and they can continue to try to sue me and hold me in contempt. And then I'll let them know that I run the jail, and I don't think I'm going to arrest myself. And if I do arrest myself, I'll put myself on home confinement at the Four Seasons. So we've got a lot more to do here. I hired a social worker. She's phenomenal. Who goes out with our eviction people now, trying to work with people on the street to try to get them into some services. Nobody else in the country is doing this. We're hoping if we can get the information ahead of time, we won't have to have her just winging it on the street where she can work with some of this ahead of time. I have an attorney who specifically deals with evictions now, so we're calling him from the houses to make sure everything's in line. We've got our financial crimes unit we've expanded so that they're going to go after some of these criminals that are doing this to people. So we're hopeful we're going in the right direction, but as I mentioned before, worse days are to come in this area, so we need to be aggressive and need to continue to move there to make sure, that, once again, that the right thing is being done here, folks. This isn't crazy stuff. It isn't as if we've decided that all of a sudden this is going to become a communist county where I don't agree in following court orders. No, I'm not going to be party to doing something that is inherently unjust and wrong and illegal, too. The due process is somehow woven in the Constitution. I think Professor Norton at least got that through my thick skull. And these people had no due process. They had nothing. They had nothing. And so we stopped it. We're trying to move ahead on a lot of issues. We have an incredibly ambitious agenda going forward in the coming weeks and months and stuff. So, next year we'll have a whole new group of things I can tell you about. But as I say, I've thoroughly enjoyed being here. People are always talking to me about running for other things. I love my job. I love what I'm doing thoroughly. We're making a difference in real people's lives, and we think that we have a lot more of that we can do. And I can't think of an office that's better situated and suited for what I want to do. And so we're going to continue to do this, and I can't thank the people who work with me to help get this thing done. And I thank you for having me here today. Thank you.
It's real late. It's real late. We know we're going to only have one question because we had a lot of other guest speakers besides the sheriff who kindly didn't foreclose on them. That was about the best I can do. I know you all want to get out of here. This is from Deborah Morrison. Where are you? Raise your hand, Deborah. A very neat question. That's why it's being read. Why not enlist volunteer jail monitors, similar to CASAs, whatever that is, or court-appointed volunteer advocates. These volunteers can monitor jail conditions and report on such. That's the only question because of time.
And it also had $20 attached to it. We have so many volunteers that we're working on right now coming into the jail, putting on new programs. I mentioned we have a lot of ministers, but we have other people coming in now. So any volunteer group that wants to become involved and work with us, we're very much in favor of it. We have been, and that was one of the things with the federal report that just threw me, we're a complete open book. Anybody wants to come by, we invite them. We invited them in. One good thing that federal group got right was they kept saying how open we were. We let everybody in. We gave them everything they wanted. We have nothing to hide. So people who want to come in and work with us in a positive way, we're there. If people want to come in there with their own agendas, that's where I have an issue, because we do have people that, you know, have some hidden agendas that they have and the like. But folks who want to come in here and do anything they can to help the detainees and make sure the conditions are there, I'm all for it. All for it.
Good answer. You answered all the questions. How about a round of applause for the young fella? He's still a young fella compared to me. Those of us who knew him when. By the way, we have Rich Pellegrino here from the Conference of Mayors, PACE board member. Raise your hand, Rich. That's high enough. Anyways, Tom. Sorry, Tom. Things are rough, but someone stole the mug. I mean, yes? Oh, you got it already. You can see why this young man has a big future in politics and why the treasurer had to show up. A one-year membership to the City Club, and how many of these City Club books do you have? Three. Therefore, we give it. Bush, you have one? Mr. Pellegrino, while you're on the PACE bus, read about the city. We're adjourned.